Last week we left off in Southern California in the Anza Borrego Desert, and this week we're going to start by traveling to San Diego.
Yeah, we went from the Anza Borrego Desert through the mountains to the San Diego area where we spent about 2 weeks exploring there. The big reason that we chose to go to San Diego was to visit family. I have quite a few family members there that I didn't really get an opportunity to visit very much growing up. So we took this opportunity, as we have in the past, to spend some time with them and get to know them more.
Visiting family is something that we absolutely love about this lifestyle. We've gotten to do so much more of it than we ever could have before, and as Caitlin said, getting to know family members we just didn't really know before because we have the time and we can spend time there comfortably without being in their home and on top of them, especially if you don't know them real well.
One of the really cool things that my great aunt took us to see while in the San Diego area was Balboa Park. Balboa Park is an awesome park. It has over 17 museums in it, an arboretum, a cactus garden, theaters, etc. And we spent the whole day touring this area.
We didn't do a whole lot of the museums as this is really an all-day or more thing, but we did spend some time in the arboretum, which was incredible, and we found some amazing plants that we'd never seen before.
And we also wandered to the cactus garden, and there were some really crazy cacti there. It's a cactus on steroids.
Even though we'd just come out of the desert, seeing more cactuses was actually really cool.
Wow, you don't want to tangle with that thing. This tree is a tree hugger's worst nightmare.
Because it was spring, the flowers were blooming like crazy. I have a background in animal welfare and used to work at a humane society, and one of the animal societies that I was always really interested in visiting was the Helen Woodward Animal Center, and that happened to be in the area, actually really close to where my great aunt lived. And so we had an opportunity to go there, and they gave us a full-blown tour of the place. Today we are visiting the Helen Woodward Animal Center, which is an animal rescue and rehabilitation center here in Rancho Santa Fe, California. This is a really cool place because not only is it a humane society where you can go and adopt animals, but they really strive to have the animals help humans as well. They have a lot of educational programs, they have a lot of therapy programs, they provide other services to the community, like an equine hospital and a pet boarding place. So this center always has something cool going on to get involved with the community.
One of the biggest attractions in San Diego is the San Diego Zoo and or Safari Park, and we did both.
First we went to the San Diego Zoo, and we found out that this place is famous for a reason. It's huge and really impressive, and basically you can see any animal that you'd ever dream of. Today we're going to the world famous San Diego Zoo. Alright, where are we gonna go first?
Good grief.
This is a big zoo. So we are on the Safari aerial tram across the zoo. We figured this would be a good way to start and get a good overview of the park, which we've never been to and is massive.
You don't like monkeys?
I want to see the gorillas though.
What's wrong with monkeys?
I don't know, they scare me. They like have their like little fingers and their little faces that look so humanish. I don't know, they just like, they creep me out. aviary. We've got about 30 minutes before the park closes, so we're booking it across the park to see the elephants.
Shoot, we're out of time. .603.
As you can see, the park closed 3 minutes ago, but we made it to see the elephants, and we made it back to the Skyfari aerial tram that we got here on, and it looks like they're still running, so we don't have to run all the way back to the entrance. We get to ride the tram. So we're leaving the San Diego Zoo now. It has been a fun-filled afternoon. We were only here for 3 hours, but we ran around like crazy, saw a whole bunch of stuff, really cool stuff, a lot of active animals, and we are exhausted. My feet kill, so I'm so glad to be riding this back. It was a lot of fun, and you gotta do it when you're in San Diego. You gotta go to the San Diego Zoo.
In addition to the zoo, there is also the safari park, which is similar but different. The safari park has a lot of open spaces and safari type animals that are just kind of roaming.
Today's adventure takes us to the San Diego Safari Park. It's another portion of the zoo, and I've got a friend here who was a neighbor of mine when I was growing up, and he's going to give us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes tour.
It was really awesome to get to ask Steve a whole bunch of questions about the park and the zoo, and to hear his perspective being on the inside. It's amazing what the zoo and the safari park does for research of these animals. They spend a lot of time researching their social behaviors, their habitat requirements, their mating rituals and patterns, and all of that information gets collected and shared among all the other zoos and with other organizations trying to help maintain healthy wild herds out in the wild.
It's probably closer to 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Is that Mama right there?
I think so.
Amazing.
You hear that little squeak?
Yes.
So basically we learned that zoos are more than just a place for you to go watch animals behind bars anymore. A lot of the animals that are in this zoo couldn't even survive in the wild, were rescued for one reason or another, or bred in captivity and would not survive in the wild. And they do a lot, as Caitlin said, in the research, and also to help prevent animals from going extinct in the wild. And if they do, they may only exist in the zoos. So it was really neat to get to see that firsthand.
One specific example was that Steve took us to the Nikita Khan Rhino Rescue Center.
Steve was incredibly passionate about the rhinos. The rhinos are going extinct because of poaching in Africa, and Steve actually had gone to Africa and flew some of these rhinos back to the US. He flew in the cargo plane with them. He was very attached to them, and he took us to see them firsthand. we actually got to go up and pet live rhinos.
Gosh, I just got goosebumps again thinking about that experience. They are in the process of trying to bring back the northern white rhino, which is pretty much going extinct. And how they're planning to do this is to use 6 surrogate southern white rhinos to basically clone the DNA of a northern white rhino and have these southern white rhinos give birth to them to basically try to regrow the species. This isn't just to save the northern white rhino, because if they can prove scientifically that this can be done, they can also use these practices to save the southern white rhino, who is also endangered. After this amazing rhino experience, we had to get something as a souvenir, a memento of this occasion. And so that's why you'll see that little stuffed rhino in our truck in a lot of our driving footage. If any of you have ever wondered why that's there, it's because we bought that right after we got to pet the rhinos at the safari park.
After getting our behind the scenes Jeep tour of the safari, we did spend some time in the rest of the safari park, which is kind of like the zoo. It has some enclosures. Notably, it has some tigers that you can walk through the tiger exhibit, which was incredible. We got to see tigers on all kinds of action that we'd never seen before. The gorillas were amazing.
Yeah.
They're so intelligent. You could just see it. We really enjoyed spending time there. And lastly, they actually are one of the only places that allows a cheetah to run full speed in a track, open, without fences actually. We got to watch a cheetah run right in front of us.
Another awesome thing that we did while we were in San Diego was visit the USS Midway. We visited with our friends David and Francesca, and for those of you who don't know, the USS Midway is a maritime museum in the form of a retired / decommissioned aircraft carrier that served from about 1945 to 1992. It's now semi-permanently docked at the Navy Pier in downtown San Diego. And the ship houses many exhibits, an extensive collection of aircraft, and it's just huge.
Seeing these old aircraft carriers as museums now is really cool. It's a great way to learn the history of the wars and how these ships operated.
Visiting these Navy ships also has a special significance to us, and Tom in particular, because his dad was in the Navy, and so it's really cool to walk around the ships and kind of get a feel for what his dad was like landing on. He was a Navy pilot, and really appreciate the extent of the talent that these people needed to get this job done.
We spent some time exploring the downtown San Diego area, which is pretty neat, in the Gaslight District. After that, we moved up to the Oceanside area, where we stayed at a campground right near the water, and we got to play in the ocean, have some fun. We also did a review on that campground, Paradise by the Sea. Put a link to that below.
This place was awesome because, like Tom said, we were like short walk from the water. One day we suited up and went and played in the waves, and this beach is famous for surfing, and there are a lot of surfers out there. They've got an awesome pier that you can walk on. Overall, really cool place, cute town.
One of the days from Oceanside, we headed down to La Jolla. It's a little town on the ocean just south of Oceanside.
And I really wanted to go there because they are famous for their seals.
In the winter, the seals, for some reason, we're not exactly sure why, come up on the beach and they bask in the sun in sunny southern Southern California, so I guess why wouldn't they be there?
Yeah, and there are places on the beach where you can actually go down and get pretty close to them.
We kept our fair distance though, but some people didn't. If you do go see the seals in La Jolla, please be respectful of them. You
Yeah.
could easily trip over them because they just lay there and they look like rocks.
Yeah, I had to stop like 3 people in the time that we were there because they were taking the picture with their phone and they were like backing up or moving to try to get it framed just right, and they almost stepped on a seal. It was ridiculous.
What do you think? We got enough pictures of baby seals?
Never.
After Oceanside, it was time for us to say goodbye to the San Diego area. One stop we made on the way out was through a town called Temecula, where we stayed at a Harvest Host for one night.
This was a very memorable stay because, one, it was the first time we experienced the jasmine bloom of Southern California.
The smell of jasmine after dark, when it just permeates everything.
Yeah, I stepped outside like to let the dogs out, and I opened the door and it just like hits you and it's like, whoa.
The next morning was incredible as well because there was this beautiful mist and hot air balloons all around us.
After that stop in Temecula, we made our way north to the Angeles National Forest where we did some hiking. We met up with some friends and hiked Monkey Canyon.
This really wasn't a designated hike. I think the national park guys didn't even know it was there.
Tom picked it. I don't know how he found it.
All trails. But it was a really fun hike. It was a challenge to get down. We followed this basically slot canyon down to some really big waterfalls.
Which is probably usually dry and passable, but this was the spring of 2017, and after the big snowfall of the previous winter, there was water everywhere. So we were rolling up our pant legs and just hiking down ice cold mountain streams to see this canyon.
One of those friends we went hiking with is a dear friend of mine from high school. Her name is Melissa, and while we were in that area, she took us to Disneyland because her husband actually works for Disney.
Neither of us had been to Disneyland before, and we really weren't planning on going, but since it was kind of free, we aren't ones to pass up on free, we went. And it was totally cool because she knew the park like the back of her hand. She knew where all the good rides were and what rides would probably have shortest lines and things like that. So overall, it was really fun.
It was fun. I'm not really one for amusement parks, but Disney is just unique because everything is so perfect there, and that's what they strive for, and it was really neat to see it firsthand, and having Melissa along to show us how to do it was really great.
After our Disney adventure, we headed further north. There is this place called the Antelope Valley Poppy Preserve.
Yeah, we were there in the spring. We got to see the poppy blooms, and it was incredible. They just covered everything, although it was crazy windy the day that we were there, and most of them were closed up. But the California poppy is the California state flower, and these lands are one of the most consistent poppy bloom areas in the country.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it was really neat to see.
The final thing we did in Southern California before making our way further north was to go sailing. I have a friend who lives in Ventura, California, and has a sailboat there, and she and her fiance took us out sailing, and it was really, really nice.
There wasn't a lot of wind that day, so we just kind of floated around, sailed very slowly in between the shore and the Channel Islands, but sometimes a calm day on the ocean is really pleasant. After all those adventures in the busy populace of the Southern California shoreline, we needed to get out into some more rural areas, so we headed north up to a place called Lone Pine and Alabama Hills.
This area is on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and it's just gorgeous with snow-capped mountains as far as the eye can see.
We camped at a place near the base of Mount Whitney. Whitney Portal is a road that runs way up to the base of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 US. One day we did drive up to Whitney Portal. There was still tons of snow. This is not a road that's open year-round. It's a great access. They had the road technically closed, but you were still able to drive up there just for a day, but you couldn't stay overnight. The drive and getting that close up into the mountains was incredible.
We actually stopped by the ranger station to see if we could go hiking in this area, but unfortunately all the trails were closed. Apparently springtime is a really dangerous time to go hiking because there's a huge chance of avalanches. We did, however, do quite a bit of exploration in the Alabama Hills recreation area.
This has some of the most unique geology in the crazy rounded rocks that we've ever driven through, and you can camp right there in the rocks.
Lots of free boondocking, although be warned, the cell service isn't so great.
There's also tons of amazing climbing through the rocks. We saw a lot of people climbing, and we actually went camping. We didn't take our RV up there, again because of the cell service and we needed to work, but we went camping for a weekend in the rocks.
Yeah, we packed up our tent. We found this really sweet spot surrounded by rocks and had this gorgeous view of the mountains, had a campfire, had a lot of fun.
We stayed in this area for 2 weeks and spent a lot of time in the Alabama Hills. We just loved it. It was so beautiful, and this time of year, spring was so comfortable. One of the days we went mountain biking and really got to see a lot of the rocks. It's a great way to see it all firsthand, and there's some amazing trails through it as well. One very interesting visit we did while we were in this area is we went to Manzanar, which was one of the Japanese internment camps that was created after the attack on Pearl Harbor during World War II. If you're not familiar with the history there, basically we rounded up all the Japanese Americans and put them into these camps because we were afraid that they might be a threat to the US during World War II.
The conditions at the camp were atrocious, and walking through them and learning about it was really eye-opening. When we were there, they were actually having their annual pilgrimage, and this is a time where all of the survivors and their families that are still alive gather and they remember and honor those who had stayed there.
We didn't speak to any of the pilgrims directly, but it was very interesting. We did walk through the camp with them, and at one point we heard an elderly gentleman telling his grandson that it was much worse than they make it look even today, and I wouldn't say that it actually looks all that great going through it, but they fixed it up a lot so that you can see what the conditions somewhat were like during the time of their stay. It was very sobering going through this site, and while it wasn't necessarily a pleasant thing to remember and think about, we think that it's very important that we maintain sites like this and retain them for education to hopefully help prevent something like that from ever happening again.
Our next big destination was going to be Sequoia National Park and then start making our way north. But in order to get there, we had to come all the way back down around the Sierra Nevada mountains to Bakersfield. But instead of driving all the way around, we found a shortcut on California 178 that took us by Lake Isabella.
We discovered some amazing free camping right on the lake, and the lake is actually a reservoir. We had an amazing spot right on the water. I mean, right on the water, which actually turned out to be a bit of a problem.
We woke up this morning and I looked outside and our truck is almost in the water. The lake has come up about 10 feet of shoreline. You can kind of see the original shoreline right there. I'm guessing about a foot of water overnight. So that means that we're gonna have to push our rig back, because if it comes up another foot, you could see this will come in and the water behind the truck, which is right there, will come in, and we won't be able to get our rig out of here without getting very wet. So this is actually a very good thing. We looked it up. This lake has not actually risen since 2014. It's 2017 now, and they've had massive snows up in the mountains, so it is increasing in water volume. They expect it to get not full, but very close to full. You can see the dam over there. I'm guessing it's going to come up probably another 30 to 40 feet, which would be just awesome for this lake and the community.
We had to move the RV up away from the water, and we did only stayed there, 3 nights, and by the 3rd night, sure enough, the water was coming up close to the RV again, and at that point we were like, well, we're out of here. But there were some other unfortunate souls who had parked their RV down there and gone off to do something else, and they were quite wet. But we did make our way down to Bakersfield, where we stayed at a Boondocker's Welcome, and this was a great opportunity to fix the water pump that was going out in our truck. Actually made a video about that you may have seen recently. Once we got the truck running again, we headed up towards Sequoia National Park.
But you'll have to join us next time to hear about that, because we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you enjoyed this Monday's episode. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and tune in next week to hear about more adventures.
Bye.
Bye.